Used to always say, we'd be hitting the bag, we'd be, getting frustrated because the change don't come so quickly. But he used to say, just keep doing it, and I used to be like, that's all he gonna say, but that's all he needed to say.
Repetition.
Just keep saying, just keep doing it, just keep loving people, just keep being patient, and then change will come.
Yeah, I believe in that. Like, my biggest thing with the sermon is I think that we as a people, we get so confused. We so desperate to want a relationship with God that we forget about one another. That in order to have a relationship with God, we got to have a relationship with one another. You know what I'm saying? That's why the commandment of love ye one another, because God already, you can't love me if you don't love my children. You know what I'm saying? And that's the science of that. When we break it down as parents, you ain't gonna let no man or woman enter into your home and they ain't got love for your children. Yeah. You don't let people into your circle and they ain't got love for your family, or they ain't got love for your other friends. You know what I'm saying? If they can't adapt to that, then you got to keep them outside that gate. And it's almost the same thing with believers and unbelievers. If you're gonna be a believer of God, then you're welcome to my friendship. But if you're an unbeliever, then you're not welcome into this friendship. Right. You know what I'm saying? You got to treat unbelievers different than you treat believers. Not being unfair about it, but it's a process that they got to go through. You don't consort amongst them like you do your friends. You got friends, you got enemies. And God, if you're not a friend of God, then you're an enemy of God. This is what the scriptures say. You know what I'm saying? So it's no wavering in between, like, oh, I think we cool, this, that. No, you either a friend of God or you're an enemy to God. And this is God's standard for our relationship with him. You know what I'm saying? We either going to be believers of God or non-believers. We either going to be friends of God or we going to be enemies of God. There's no in between with this. As human beings, I think that we, like in our weariness, like you were saying, that we get so tired that the comparison and the judgment of things become easier to do. Yeah. Like it's easier to be sinful than it is to be righteous. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To be righteous, it's simple. But you'll go out and you'd rather do sin because it look more appealing, it look more fun, and more, all this, that, and other. Like it seemed to be more fulfilling. Yep. But then spiritually, you empty as a person. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same way with our friendship. So what I want to bring across is make sure that you understand, like, whatever you think your relationship is with God, you should see it in your relationships with mankind, with all of humanity. If you love God, then you should love humanity. You can't talk highly about God and talk poorly about your brother or your sister. Right. You can't lift God up and put your brother or sister down. You can't hold God down, but yet you betray your brothers and sisters. Right. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. It ain't gonna work that way for you. The evidence of your relationship with God is to God. It's gonna be your relationship with the rest of humanity. How do you treat other people? Are you charitable? Yep. You know what I'm saying? Do you do all that you can do to make the God within you come out that other people can see and bear witness to who that God is? So that was one of the main reasons why opening this up was, an important part for me to have this opportunity to be with the brother Jermaine, because I'm like, this is my relationship. You know what I'm saying? And in our relationship, you're going to see, in greater times, you're going to see, a greater bond that's going to transpire, because I want this to be fun for y'all. Talking about God should be fun. It should be loving. It should be all that. So it ain't going to be what you normally used to. You know what I'm saying? This is the link up, man. We only here to make each other stronger and give each other the love and courage that we need to keep going through what we got to go through on this planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? But we never lose sight of our God. Like I say, everything that come to me is, what would God do? What would God want me to do? How would God want me to speak? Which way God want me to go? Where do God want me to be? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure this out every day of my life. Like you say, it's the repetition of it, like in boxing. You keep boxing, and dog, you got to keep going. Even when I think I'm right with God, I'm still working like I'm not right. I'm not good enough. You know what I'm saying? I don't never feel like I'm good enough to represent God. I'm always fighting to be a better representative. You know what I'm saying? And it's so should it be in our friendship. We should always be fighting to be a better friend to one another. So in the scripture, when it talks about no greater friend than a friend that's willing to lay down his life for a friend, in many sense, I tell people I live by that scripture. And I think that's the defining factor of my relationship with my God, because as hard as I go for my family and my friends, you know what I'm saying, I go that hard for God. Yeah. Like I always tell people, there's a lot of people that shouldn't be here. With the way y'all talk about y'all love God, y'all shouldn't even still be living. Like real talk. If you really love God and like you say you do, and you gotta love us like you say you do.
Yeah.
A lot of us we run away from death. That's when you know that you're not serving God, you serving yourself. You thinking about yourself. You thinking about how to preserve your life. You can't do that with God. That's what Jesus did when he got on the cross, when he even asked the question, why hast thou forsaken me? He thought about himself and what he was going through and what he wanted to do. And then he turned around and said, thy will be done. See, you got to get away. When you get to worrying about yourself, then that's when you got to go to God and be like, man, thy will be done.
Right.
Because a lot of times a family member could be in need of help or some type of assistance, and you would be like, that ain't my business, this,
Right,
that, and other.
right.
But God done led on wars. He done sent his believers into war and battle for his name.
Yeah.
But you sitting back like, man, we ain't supposed to be going to war. We ain't supposed to be doing that.
Right.
This. Now you thinking about yourself. You see what I'm saying? Because you're not willing to die for God like you say you is.
You know, this is why that God created the confounds or the foundations of marriage to show what we supposed to do between me and us and
That's
God.
a great example.
Right? Because like with my wife, if somebody coming at my wife, I'm like Jesus when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. And if he big, I'm really like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. I'm like, you know, when he started sweating blood and like, oh man, you know, not my will but thy will. Now I gotta fight because you're not gonna do nothing to my wife, and that's how it is. You can't. It's a marriage. It's a marriage, and once you come into this marriage, we supposed to look out for each other no matter what. It ain't supposed to be no partition.
There's another friend, like even when they came to arrest Jesus. And one of the disciples, I can't name, Peter pulled out the sword and cut my man's ear off in defense of his friend. Like, y'all not gonna take my friend. At that moment, Peter was willing to die for Jesus. Because you was going against the Roman soldiers. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying this to say, like, we would call each other friends and this, that, and the other, but I don't think a lot of y'all are really friends to one another. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not even a friend of God. And you're not willing to lay down your life for that person. Now you might say you willing to do it for your children, and a lot of y'all probably fall short of that too, because you so busy worried about you. So when it say you cannot serve two masters, which is God and man, sometimes that master you serving is yourself. It ain't another man like you think in slavery. Sometimes you so in love and confused with who you are with yourself that you can't choose God before you. You always put yourself first. Any person that do that, they call a narcissist. You know what I'm saying? That's a selfish individual. You know what I'm saying? Actually, you want the person that's going to run out and jump on the front line and be like, hold on, what's going on? Now, a lot of people look at it and be like, man, y'all brothers crazy. Like, he always trying to get into something, this, that. But that's looking at it from a lowly standpoint. Then you look at it from the honor of it, like, this one is always willing to stand in your defense. Who could be a better friend than the one that always jump at the opportunity to defend you, your honor, your character, your integrity? Who could be a better friend? And to go back to my old one, them the friends that y'all now know as criminals. You know what I'm saying? Them the friends that been labeled as criminals because 9 times out of 10, when they jump in your defense, they likely going to jail. And some people look down on that and scorn that, but you not understanding the strength that's built behind that in the friendship. You know what I'm saying? You can't be a friend of God and you not willing to